Ariel Helwani just made an interesting statement. And he said that the UFC is going to have to pull a rabbit out of their hat as it pertains to UFC 300. And I don't see it that way, but I want to know what you guys think, right? And please don't go to hell with USADA and George St. Pierre and Ronda Rousey, and they're going to do a tag team again. I mean, please be really realistic. And you can push those boundaries just a little bit for fun if you want, but please be really realistic with me. Because I don't think that the UFC is up against it. I mean, I see it quite the opposite. They rushed Strickland and du Plessis to the market. That's true. That was the one where they were up against it. That card, except you have that fight. And if you do stare at why did we rush this fight, I think it's very reasonable to conclude that we need an outcome. Okay, great. You need an outcome for what? Well, and then that, I believe, is where you see something with Izzy, but that's not done. I mean, like, for example, Sean Strickland has not been told, beat this guy, draw into Izzy at 300, make millions and millions of dollars. That hasn't been done. They don't have a yes back from Izzy, but they've let Izzy know that's where they want to go, and Izzy's let him know that he's still listening. I mean, that's as far as it is, but that's what the fight game is. That is how the fight game is done. Now, you will know for sure what direction they're attempting to go, not what direction they're going to go, what direction they're attempting to go if Izzy's plane touches down in Vancouver. If Izzy is not cage side for Duplessis versus Strickland, Izzy versus the winner of Duplessis Strickland is not going to happen. And adversely, if he is cage side, they want that fight to happen. Okay. So I don't agree with Ariel. Just on that, I think that's a big deal. I think Izzy in a rematch with Strickland, as good as both of them have proven at press conferences, proven as build, as hyped as their first fight was, and they didn't have time to hype the fight. Sean Strickland was a 6-1 favorite. Nobody does great pay-per-view numbers that's a 6-1 favorite and or dog. But that would be completely switched now. In fact, DraftKings has a mythical lined out at 2-1 right now, favoring Izzy. Very, very different from a business standpoint. And that's if Strickland wins. I don't need to take a second to sell you guys on Duplessis versus Izzy, of which, in my opinion, should happen either way. You're paying through your nose for 300, right? Like, there's some guys that you can't bring in unless they're at the top of the bill. The way their contracts are structured, Ronda Rousey would be an example. Ronda Rousey's own revenue forced her into retirement. There was nowhere else you could put her except main event. She no longer could beat people in a main event spot. Do you understand that concept? It's a pretty simple one, but you might not, and I don't mean to condescend. You're going to pay for 300, so the rules are going to be different. There is no reason that Izzy and Duplessis can't fight at 300. Right now, regardless of outcome against Strickland, they would either be coming off a loss to the same guy, which makes that work, or it would be for the championship of the world, which was supposed to happen in August of 2023. And that match would work. Now, if Ariel's argument is that that fight, which they are clearly trying to do, isn't big enough for 300, okay, great. Well, then I guess I misunderstood the debate. So let's keep playing. There is real talk between Max Holloway's team and Justin Gaethje. I don't believe Max changing weight classes and a BMF title that is the road to nowhere because it has no lineage and has yet to be defended. I don't think that that's main event worthy. I think that's a wow. Whoa. I think that's a cool move. I think that's a great supporting cast with a story to tell in a road that's headed nowhere for a championship that's already been identified as headed nowhere. Like, I think that to a level, it works. It's not a main event. I would say the same thing would go if George Masvidal was to come back. If George Masvidal was to come back against Gaethje, the BMF, and they're going to fight, and they're figure out the weight class later, and this is nothing more than a cash grab, and it would prove Ariel's point of desperation. I would not, as a defender of the organization, be able to say anything less than they were desperate if they made that move. And that's the only word I'm attempting to argue against right now. But I do think that it's been oddly quiet around Jamahal Hill. I don't remember an injury in this sport which speculation and return has been so quiet. I think that Jon Jones, who's never been very good at media, he got a hurt chest. You only need so much time. I don't think he's back by 300, and I get that he's not a huge draw, but Jones versus Aspinall in the right position, yeah, it would work, and it would deflate Errol's argument of desperation. And I think that Aspinall versus Pierre is just two oddly quiet topics right now. Right? I mean, the perennial weight class in all of combat is heavyweight. That's the belt Ali had. That's the belt Hulk Hogan had. And we have our heavyweight active champion with how to partner. And the only rumor, he's already agreed to it. The only rumored opponent for Aspinall is Pierre, which Aspinall has already publicly agreed to. And the same thing goes for Pierre. A perennial weight class within the organization. That's Frank Shamrock's weight class, that's Chuck Liddell's weight class, that's Tito Ortiz's weight class, that's Randy Couture's weight class. A perennial weight class is Jon Jones's weight class. A perennial weight class is light heavyweight. And we've got a light heavyweight champion who was already agreed to fight Aspinall. As a matter of fact, it was his idea. Why wouldn't you give? If you got two guys in the fight business that want to fight, why would you not give them what they want? Let me just start with that. And if you do give them what they want, and it was their idea, can we agree against Ariel that that is not a sign of desperation?